Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we will be doing our monthly readathon. And since it is February, I thought we can have a little theme for this 24-hour readathon, which is to be reading only romance related books because Valentine's Day is approaching and I thought we can read some romance books together. I have a pile of books over here that I already selected and I do think I want to read all this. One of them is a reread. I am currently in the middle of a book. It is like a romantasy, although sometimes it gets quite heavy plot-wise, but I still would consider it a romantasy and would still put in the TBR, I think. I'm currently reading A Fate So Dark and Delicate. I hope you guys can see it, but yeah, by Sophia St. Germain, which is the last book in the Compelling Fates saga. I'm so excited to finish this. The next book I do have is Business Casual by B.K. Borison. I read Love Light Farms, absolutely loved it. I read The First Time Caller, enjoyed it. And In the Weeds, I didn't enjoy it that much. I dislike it, let's just say it like that. And yeah, this is the third book in the Love Light Farms series. And since I already have it physically, I just want to know if I like it, so I'm going to pick it up and see whether I'm going to unhaul this or not. I do not have high hopes after In the Weeds, but again, Love Light Farms was so good. My first book from BK Borison was In the Weeds, and it was like, obviously I disliked it. And then I read First Time Caller, enjoyed it. Love Light Farms, loved it. So I hope now it's just going uphill. We shall see though. And then the next one is a reread that I have been wanting to do for quite a while. This book I read twice already, but it is one of my favorite Mariana Zapata's books, which is When Gracie Met the Grump. Not a lot of people have read this book, or I don't know if people love this book. I don't remember. I think the last time I reread it though is 2022. So it has been 4 years, and I don't know if my reading taste is still the same because I read this before I started picking back up my reading hobby, so to say. So we shall see about this, but this is like a superhero romantasy kind of vibe. It is definitely heavy on the romance. There's no actual crazy plot going on. It's just based on the romance. So yeah, and I do love romance, and especially for this vlog, it is perfect. The next one is a book that I'm currently in the middle of, but we're taking it very slow because it's a classic. It is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I am not that far in. I'm currently on chapter 2. I'm annotating this and tabbing it at the same time. I already have 2 tabs. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I'm excited. I'm not rushing to finish this. I do want to read it in the month of February. I'm going to read it slowly whenever I'm in the mood, because I'm not going to force myself and put myself in a slump, but I am excited to pick this one up. Although the first chapter was actually quite difficult to read. It was how many pages? 7 pages. And it was okay. It was not bad, but I am very intrigued in how it's going to continue and when we're going to see Mr. Darcy, obviously. And the next book I have, which is the last book in this TBR. I know this is very ambitious. Like I said, we have 6 books. I don't know if I'm going to finish all 6 books, but this time, I know January's 24-hour readathon, I have really nothing physically to show you, like the books that I finished. But this one, I will stick to my TBR and will not go sidetrack because I did order, oh, you guys can see what the next book is, but I did order Flesh and Fire series, which is the first book is The Shadow in the Ember by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and I'm currently so obsessed with that series, guys, but I will not start it because once I start it, I think I will go down that rabbit hole of just reading the whole series in one go. But yeah, that's also actually one of my goals of the year, is to read the series completely before moving on and jumping and starting a new series the second I finished with a book, for example. So yeah, but if it's contemporary romance, I really do not care, but if it's fantasy, I do really want to try and finish it in a row, so everything is still fresh in my mind, so to say. But yeah, anyway, that's beside the point. But actually contradicting the point I just said about trying to finish all the series that I'm currently in the middle of, I'm starting a new series, which is Paladin's Grace. I don't know what it's called actually. The series, it's Saint of Steel series, and I know there's 4 books. I'm gonna read this slowly. I think I don't know if it's cozy fantasy, but from the cover, which is honestly so beautiful, it looks like it could be a cozy fantasy. But hopefully the romance would be good. I have yet to read a lot of books by T. Kingfisher. I know they have a lot of books in their backlist, so I'm really excited to just pick everything up. I read Thorn Hedge, did not absolutely love it. I think it's a retelling of, I don't remember, it's a retelling of some kind of fairy tale. It was okay, and I know a lot of people love Sword Heart, and I am planning to pick that one up as well, but not in this video, obviously. So that is pretty much the TBR. Very ambitious. We might not finish them all, but we are still doing a 24-hour readathon with the timer method, because I think, honestly, I get the most reading done there. And the fact that I see the number, like the timer going on, and I'm like, oh, this is so satisfying. I want to finish it immediately, like to 24 hours. And it does not put me in a slump. Normal 24-hour readathon is like, I'm too stressed. I want to do other things, but I'm too constrained by the time, so to say. But this one, I can do it however long I want it. But the goal is to read it in the next 4 or 5 days. I think it's doable. I have quite a crazy week this week though, but still, I do want to do a lot of reading. And I also want to do quite a bit of hobbies, namely, okay, this looks bad. I want to crochet them together. I have around 36 tiles, and now I can put them together and see them like 6 by 6. And I think I can see like the fruits of my labor. So I'm really excited for that. My 24-hour readathon vlog, I will try and focus on more reading than doing hobbies. But I thought, since I'm gonna connect all these this week, I thought it'd be interesting for you guys to see, and I thought it'd be interesting to show you as well that I do it. But other than that, I think it's just gonna be lots of reading, lots of me yapping about all the books, because I'm so excited. I will start with a dark of date and delicate, fate so dark and delicate, and then we shall see how it goes. So yeah, enjoy the vlog. Let's go ahead and read. first update of the readathon. I think this is the next day, if I'm not wrong. I can tell you though that I am 8 hours and 41 minutes in. Actually, was not planning on updating you today at all because I don't know, I'm just so in the mood to just read. But the thing is, I have finished 2 books, although it's not that great of an accomplishment because one is a novella. And then the second one, I had like 50% of it, so like I had 200 pages. So, but let's talk through the first book that I read. I reread A Cruel Winter with You by Ali Hazelwood. I think I'm just craving something like some good romance. So I was like, okay, hence the readathon, which is like romance themed. I thought we can just like pick it up. It was so fast. I think by 1 hour mark, I'm already done because I think it's a 60-page novella, and I do usually read around like 60 pages an hour or so. So yeah, but we're pretty much, I'm not gonna tell you a lot because it's a novella. It's like a childhood best friend's brother kind of romance. Honestly, I'm so impressed with this book because this book is only 60 to 70 pages long, right? But the fact that the tension, the banter, the chemistry between the characters are stronger than some of the books that I read is questionable. But yeah, anyway, back to why I am updating you now. It's because I feel like if I update you tomorrow, I might be done with the third book, and obviously I don't want to give you like a dump of an update, like too long of an update. So I thought I'm just going to update you now. The second book that I did finish is A Fate So Dark and Delicate, which is the last book in the Compelling Fates saga. Where do I even begin with this book? It is very disappointing, let's just say it like that. I loved the first 3 books. I could not stop reading it. Like, I could not physically stop reading the books. I binged it in one go. I loved it so much. It was so compelling, hence the name. I think like the plot was interesting, the romance was good, the character building, everything was just like really, really interesting. And it's setting up for like a really good ending. And all of a sudden in this book, I'm not gonna say too much. Skip ahead for a few minutes because I'm gonna talk fully spoiler when it comes to this. Obviously, I'm not gonna say about like the ending or anything like that, but I'm gonna say like the gist of everything. So if you're in the middle of this or if you're planning to read this, skip ahead. Okay? So what I really do not like about this is that fated mates like heavy. We are following 4 sets of characters or 4 sets of couples, and all of them, 2 of them are mated. The romance in this like 4 couples, they're not fully resolved, right? So somehow in this 400-page book, we need to wrap up the romance of 4 couples. We need to wrap up the story, which is the war, right? So like the battle and everything. And then obviously each couple, they all have their own like paths that they go through. Like Merrick and Lesia, they go through like these super complicated things about like their lives because on like they're dying, but like what was even the resolve to that? And then at the same time, Losh, I don't know how to say them, and Avery, they were hating each other. All of a sudden, so nothing happened, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, I love you with all my soul. I would burn it." I'm like, "Hello, didn't this just happen like 5 seconds ago?" And I mean, like, you're fated mates. I understand. It's like it's different, I guess, but like to that extent, I don't know. And then with Rain and Fralina, it was okay. Like that one I semi understand because the thing is they were already like into each other, but Rain was in denial in the 3rd book, and then obviously in the 4th book he came to his senses. So I don't mind that. Right. With Karam and Pelly though, what happened there? There were no inklings of like even attraction in the 3rd book. And then the last book, whenever we got his point of view, he's like, I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna make her my wife. Hello? What happened? That's just the romance aspect of this book. And the plot. First of all, the war that we've been waiting, the end war was teased from the second book, even like a little bit from the first book, happened so fast in the span of like 10 pages. And I was like, what the hell just happened? And obviously, this is very spoiler. Okay, so if you're in the middle of this and you are like, I'm just gonna listen to this, please skip ahead actually for this one. It's because everybody died. And then Lesia was just like, I'm gonna accept myself, I'm gonna be a queen. And then she proceeded to resurrect everybody that died. What the hell? What just happened? Like, I don't know. It feels like the book is written by a different author, and also the ending with the teasing of the new character, because it's gonna set up like a new series. I think it's called Cinderland Saga, if I'm not wrong. And like it was just teased too fast. Like, who even is Marlowe? Right? Like, why is he so important in the end? And what happened with Lesia's like life? She was dying, and Merrick too. And what's the resolve to that? Like, it's not resolved at all. So I'm just like confused. Like, I don't know. I feel like to the extent I do, I don't know if I enjoy this. Honestly, this book gave me such a bad reading slump. It took me so long to finish this book because I really, really, really like dislike it. It's just so sad. I loved the first two. The third one I didn't love, but I thought the fourth book would be like amazing, because I know like second and third books usually they like suffer from middle book syndrome, right? So I thought, like, you know what, I'm gonna give it a chance. But I don't know, guys. I'm not into it. Let's just say it like that. But if I could give a rating, honestly I want to give like 2.5. I think even that is generous. This gave me one of the worst slumps of my life. I literally picked up this book, like not even a page later, I'm like, I'm so done. I don't want to read about this anymore. But I'm so glad that I finished it last night. I like literally pushed through, and I was such in a reading slump. And then obviously I decided to pick up one of my favorite books, which is When Gracie Met the Grump by Ariana by Mariana Zapata. Honestly, after rereading it, I think our main character, like our male main character, is just a rude, annoying, like a mean guy. I don't know how I loved this book so much back then, but I think honestly this update has gone for quite a long time. So I thought I'm just gonna tell you that I'm currently in the middle of this. Actually, not even in the middle of this. I am not a third in, but I am page 348. I started it today. So I'm happy. It is 10:30. So maybe I'm going to go and read until midnight, see how much I can make progress timer-wise. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and continue reading When Gracie Met the Grump, and see you probably tomorrow. All right. Good night. I am back and with a decent reading update. Not only a reading update, but I do have a crochet update and a journaling update, I guess. So I am currently 12, almost 13 hours in. I am planning to finish it today, which I need to read 11 hours, so I need to get going with reading. It is not that late yet. It is still early morning. It is currently 8 a.m., so I do have the whole day to just go ahead, sit and read and do whatever I want. But before we get into the reading update, I think I want to show you the thing that has been taking a lot of my time away from reading, which is because if you guys don't know, I don't think I said it at all, but I noticed that I have a lot of physical books. And even when I have the physical books, I tend to like, oh, if I have the audiobook, I'm just going to listen to the audiobook. But I do love reading physical books. So in this readathon, I'm trying to read everything physically without audio. Not to say that listening to an audiobook is not considered reading a book. It is still reading a book. I'm just doing a different challenge, I guess. So either way, since I've been doing my crochet project, I have not been reading so much. But let me show you the progress so far. I know in the beginning I said I want to attach it. I have attached most of it. I need to attach like 2 more rows, I think. Yeah. This is what it's looking like. I don't know, honestly, if I'm still okay with the colorway, because I feel like it's such a crazy, vibrant, messy colorway, but I still find it quite nice. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I have attached, like you can see, together. Oh, don't even mind the ends. But for example, I've attached all the horizontal ones, now moving with the vertical ones. So look, you can still see the part where I still need to combine it. So I'm gonna be working towards that today as well. Also, and before we get into it, a journaling update. I don't know if I've talked to you about it. I feel like I have, but I'm not sure. So I'm just gonna talk about it again, I guess. But I have bought a 5-year journal to just like look back and see what I've been up to pretty much. I know it is February, so I'm missing like the whole month of January. But also I feel like now my Hobonichi is a bit redundant. I think what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna like summarize my week here. And as you guys could see, I have like a little collage on the side. Moving on to the books that I read, the book that I continued, and the book I started. So let's start with When Gracie Met the Grump. I think last time I talked to you, I haven't even told you what this is about. This is about, how am I supposed to tell you without telling you too much of the plot? But pretty much this is a superhero romance. I can just read you the blurb, okay? For most people, finding a half-naked super being in their yard might be a dream come true. Unfortunately, for Gracie Castro, it's the exact opposite, especially when he's grouchy, rude, and shows no sign of leaving anytime soon. When a hero of mankind needs you, you do what you have to do, even if it compromises everything you know and totally changes your life. I think that does not tell a single thing. But what I can tell you, it's like it probably happens in the first 50 pages. No, 50, you think? I'm just gonna explain to you what happened in the first 50 pages and what's gonna entail roughly. This is supposed to be like a romantasy superhero fantasy romance, I guess. We are following our main character, Gracie. She needs to, due to some certain circumstances that the parents put her in, she needs to be in hiding pretty much her whole entire life. So she's been moving from point A to point B. She never stayed in one place for too long. And one day, the superhero, so there's like these 3 superhero of the world. There's called the Primordial, the Centurion, and the Defender. And she noticed one day the Defender was like fell into her backyard, heavily injured, but the thing is nothing injured them, right? So we're like very confused about that. And she pretty much nursed him back to life, or is trying to nurse him back to life. But the thing is, he's very rude. That's why it's called When Gracie Met the Grump, because he's not just grumpy, he's like borderline rude. The thing is, I don't know how this is a 6-star read for me back in the day. Right now, I think this sits more in like a 4-star, 4.5 for the romance. There's absolutely like not I don't know. I feel like the plot, the magic system is not fully fleshed out. So I cannot give it a 5 star, but the romance, the chemistry is quite there. Although this guy is giving me a whiplash because one time he's so nice and I mean, so nice is stretching it. One time he's like agreeable, I guess. And another second, he's just like borderline rude and calling her ugly and disgusting and stinky. And I'm like, oh gosh. Honestly, the first 200 pages, it's getting on my nerves. Most of my annotations here in the beginning are just like, I'm losing it. I do not like this guy. But although, like, through some circumstances, she is now stuck with him. And I'm not gonna tell you his name because I think his name got revealed like midway, not even in the beginning. Due to said circumstances, she needs to be under his protection pretty much forever. And then we see how their romance develop in a way. I'm not gonna say too much because again, it is light fantasy, like almost nothing except that there's like this 3 superhero in the world. Obviously there are some kind of fantastical element that gets explained eventually, although it really, I don't know how to imagine some. Anyway, either way, the romance is interesting, although he gave me a whiplash. But I sadly, kind of sad that this is not a 6-star read anymore, although I forgot. Like, I read All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata, and it is a slow burn. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a hella slow burn, right? And this one is even more of a slow burn. It's the last 20 pages. They finally confess to each other, and then they just got together, and then that's it. There's like a little mini epilogue that is like 1 paragraph. So in a way, it's quite crazy. If you are not into very, very slow burn books, I think you will not enjoy this one. I just have to say it out there. But I have a good time. I absolutely did. I love this. I kind of want to reread Love in Other Words now because it is a little bit of a slow burn, that one too. But obviously, I'm not going to reread a book that I just reread. Anyway, that is my update for this book. And then moving on to the next book, I continued with Pride and Prejudice. I am currently chapter 4 or page 14. Honestly, I underestimate how fast or how slow this book is going and how slowly I read this. I think it's not about the writing style so much. It's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not in the mood for this, but my goal for the day is to reach page 100. That is the goal. I'm going to read it, obviously not all in one go, but that is the plan. And we have finally met Mr. Darcy. So he was interested in Lizzie or Elizabeth Bennet, and she turned him down. So that is pretty much what happened so far. I literally just started this like just right now, and I remember, okay, I need to stop having 10 things to update in one update because it's going to be way too long. So I'm going to give you a small update that I have started business casual, and afterwards I do want to start Paladin's Grace. And I was thinking, I don't know if all this book will be enough. I'm going to add one more book. I'm not sure if this is romance, but it is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. So because it's just in the back, it says, this is the year she will fall in love. I just picked it up. I'm like, okay, it's probably something about romance. Probably so much more than that, but maybe. So, yeah. TBR for the next 11 hours. But honestly, kind of crazy that so far we have finished 3 books in the past 12 hours, 13 hours. So I'll see if we get to finish this one. Because I feel like they're fairly short, all of them. I probably want to continue with business casual. But maybe I want to read like 1 chapter of Pride and Prejudice. This is sometime later. Honestly, I'm not sure when was the last time I updated you, but I have quite a decent reading update. First, I can show you the hours that we're currently in. It is probably day 4 or day 5 of this readathon. I am around 20 hours and 23 minutes in, so I have around 3.5 hours or so. And I thought before I fully finished and like talk to you about all the books that I finished in the outro, I need to do like a little midway update. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the book that I finished. The book that I finished is Business Casual by B.K. Borison. I think I already told you what it's about. Have I told you what it's about? I'm gonna tell you again what it's about. It's a contemporary romance. The setting of this book is in Lovelight Farms, or I think it's called Inglewood, if I'm not wrong, the place. The first book of this series is called Lovelight Farms, and we're following Luca and Stella. The second book I read, and I absolutely disliked that book so much. It's called In the Weeds. We're following Evelyn and Beckett. And then the third book, which is I think Mixed Signal. I really thought that this is the third book, which would be like the summer. Each book is following like the different season in Inglewood, and we're following the characters around this farm, which is Lovelight Farm, right? So I didn't realize that this is actually a fall book. It is very cozy in a sense that it's very like late summer. It's warm, but in the evening it's cooler, and then they're working towards like a harvest fest. But we're pretty much the main character is Charlie, which is Stella's half brother, and Nova, which I presume was probably introduced in the third book. She's Beckett's little sister, I think. So I think the romance between them is very lusty too fast. I know that it's been building up. I think probably in this third book it built up to a certain degree, and you know, like, oh, this romance is gonna go a certain way. But where was I going with this? Oh yeah, the start of the book, we already know that they have like this chemistry, that they always flirt with each other. Charlie's side to Nova, and Nova is always like, Charlie, can you please stop? Like always not deflecting, more like stopping the flirting, right? And then one time she's trying to open her own tattoo parlor, tattoo shop in Inglewood because she was previously in a different city, whatever. She's super stressed, and all the loved ones around her are like, oh, you need to take it easy. You don't need to be so stressed all the time. And then she was like, you know what? I'm going to take it easy. And then she went to Charlie and just like, would you like to dance with me? This is like Stella and Luca's wedding, I think. Would you like to dance with me and afterwards go home? It's like, obviously she's like proposing a one-night stand. It unravels from that. In a way, it already started pretty lusty. Maybe it was not insta love. Is it insta love? I feel like it's not insta love, but they fell in love so fast. The fact that in the beginning, they were so adamant, like, oh, I'm such an independent person, like both of them, and I don't want to be in a relationship because so-and-so, whatever. And then obviously, because it's a contemporary romance, both of them caved in. But I think they caved in too fast for like the sake of slow burn, the sake of like realism. Not that it has to be real, because it's obviously fictional, and I just feel like it's a little bit too fast. Is it better than In the Weeds? 100%. Did I enjoy this so much more than Lovelight Farm? Probably not. Lovelight Farms is probably up there. The one thing that I still love about this book, though, is that they have a phone tree where they get to like gossip. So like, this is a very small town and everybody is in everybody's business, so to say. So the fact that they have a phone tree to discuss gossips about civilians that lived there, I feel like is so interesting. And we are still following Beckett from the second book, which he gives Snow White vibes because he keeps collecting like stray animals and just like housing them in his barn. And I feel like that's still pretty interesting. Reading about Beckett, not in his book, is very good. But reading about Beckett in his own book is very, I don't know, meh. So yeah, maybe I pick up the third book. I don't know. I think it's following Layla and Caleb. Layla is like one of the trio in the Lovelight Farm, which is like, I think it was Stella, who's the owner, Beckett, who's like the farmer, and Layla, who's the baker, I think, and they all live in Lovelight Farm. So we're following those three, and obviously Stella's half brother / Beckett. That's my verdict when it comes to this book. It is okay. I think it's a good palate cleanser, but it's nothing like groundbreaking, so to say. So yeah, moving on to the next one. I think I have about 100 pages left on this book. I honestly am loving and enjoying reading this book so much. I mean, I'm in the mission of finding like a really good T. Kingfisher book. I know they have a lot of books in their backlist and I really want to read them, but I just look at this cover in the bookshop and it's so beautiful. I just had to pick it up. I also tabbed it a little bit because this book is so funny. Like, I don't even know how to explain it to you, but pretty much, okay, before we get into like what I think about the book, I'm gonna tell you what the book is about. So the book is pretty much about these two characters. One is Grace, and she is a perfumer, so she makes perfumes. And then we're following Stephen, which is a paladin of the Saint of Steel Church. Is it a church? I think Saint of Steel Church. But one day he was in this battlefield and then he felt his god died. So the saint died. And then now he is currently in the shelter of the Temple of the White Rat because of like his god dying. Pretty much his whole battalion, his whole army died at an instant in a way. Not all died, but some of them died in an instant, and some of them like commit suicide because they could not live with the darkness that is within them now. There's only 7 left from all that like incident, and now obviously in the Temple of the White Rat they're like healing and they're trying to like in a way gain a sense of like normalcy. I don't know if there's a thing when it comes to like your god dying, whether you can go back to how it was. He's just trying to be in a way normal. But again, the thing is, the paladins, the remaining paladins, they actually can go berserk, as in like there's this dark tide that they keep explaining. It's pretty much they go full on crazy, wild, and they cannot be controlled. But they all have experienced that and have come back from it. So yeah, they had this meet cute. I wouldn't say meet cute. They met each other in this like very funny situation. I'm not gonna tell you guys because I think it's interesting for you guys to read it yourself. But yeah, they keep getting themselves in this like precarious, very confusing situation, which is so hilarious. And their banter and the banter between like the two main characters with other side characters were hilarious. This book is set back way back then. Even like touching someone's hand is very like, oh my gosh, so scandalous. And I love it, that is so funny. And they're that like both of them, they're yearning for each other, but every time one of them just look at each other and you're like, oh my gosh, he looked at me. Which I find so hilarious. I tabbed like some funny parts. I did not tab any like heartfelt parts really. It's more just like how funny they are. Oh, another thing about this book as well is so funny that Stephen, this big 6'5" probably man, like he's a warrior and he's like a weapon. He's a paladin and he's just like all he thinks about is knitting and how he loves to knit socks. And he kept going into terms about like, oh, the knitting style. Hilarious. Wait, I can read you a bit where he's like explaining it. He's pretty much accompanying a healer and the healer needs to go around town and heal people, whatever healers do, right? And then he said this. While he was waiting for the healer to be done, he wished that he would break out his knitting, but for some reason, people didn't take you seriously as a warrior when you were knitting. He'd never figured out why. Making socks required, and then he goes into very detailed explanation of knitting, which I find so funny. Another instance is like when our two main characters were like talking to each other, she was asking like, what were you doing then while you were waiting for me? And he said, I knitted. And she was like, knitted? Socks, he said. I knit socks. I am a sock knitter person who knit mostly socks. I'm like, what a way to explain that you love to knit socks. You know what I mean? And also like the banter between him and the other paladins was so hilarious. And I think honestly, I'm not sure. I have not researched this, but maybe the second and the third book, if there's only 3 books, wait, let me check. No, there's 4 books. Maybe all 4 books are following 4 different paladins. But yeah, that is pretty much like roughly the premise of this story. There's also this underlying mystery that we're following loosely. But there's like a serial killer who's been beheading people left, right, center, and they're trying to figure it out. That is pretty much the main plot, but I'm only invested in the romance subplot, honestly, because it's so funny. But yeah, I have about 100 pages left, and I think I will probably finish this in like about an hour and a half. So we'll be at like around 2 hours left. And I think I'm gonna jump into a novella that I did not know existed until yesterday, which is Abby Jimenez's novella. The first one was like The Worst Wingman Ever. The second one is The Fall Risk, and I think it's only like 70 pages or so. So I'm gonna continue on after Paladin's Grace to this, and then spend the rest of the time either reading Pride and Prejudice, or I will start with The Raven Boys. So that is the long-winded update from me. I had quite a bit of an update. Let's go ahead and do what I just said. So that was a wrap for the 24-hour readathon. I know I had said I wanted to do it in 3 days. It has been 5 days. But if you're not going to tell anyone, I won't either. So anyway, this will be the outro. And I know last night I was in the middle of Paladin's Grace. Let me update you on the 2 books that I did finish and the 1 book that I'm currently in the middle of. And then we can do a little bit of a recap. So honestly, the last 100 pages, we definitely focus more on the plot, on the like murder mystery aspect of the book. I think this is one of T. King Fisher's most famous romantasy series, which I fully understand why. And this book still cracks me up. I love this book. Everything is just so funny. And I really think I haven't read like the blurb of the second, third, or fourth, whatever. But I think it's going to be focusing on a different paladin, which I'm so excited. And I think the next one is called Paladin's, it's just so small, Paladin's Strength. I'm not sure who we're following though, but the cover is stunning. I can see it on the back here already. But yeah, I don't know what I would rate this book, but anyway, going back to the plot, actually, it was looking very grim for our main character Grace, and even for Stephen a little bit. And then the thing is, it is a very like cozy fantasy, I feel like. So it is a little bit not up my alley. I feel like the first 100 pages were really difficult to get into because it was too cozy, I think, for me. I like a book where it has just more things going on, and I feel like this book is very, not to say that I don't enjoy this, but I think out of all the cozy fantasies I have read, this might be my favorite cozy fantasy. So maybe I judge cozy fantasy too soon because I think I've read like probably 2-3 books. So maybe I'll continue with the series. I don't know when. Not gonna be anytime soon because I do not have the physical copy of the rest of the books. But maybe we'll get it on Kindle. We shall see. But that is what I think of Paladin's Grace. And the next book that I finish is The Fall Risk by Abby Jimenez. It is a very short novella. I think it's like 70 pages. Yep, it is 80 pages or 79 pages if you want to be exact. But I'm not going to say too much about this because, again, it's a novella. I think you should get into it a little bit blind. But I think the thing about Abby Jimenez is that although I really enjoy her current day meme kind of like topics, I guess, in this book, because I remember it was like a year ago. I think this was exactly when it was released. There's this trend where you give your partner an orange and then you can ask them to peel it. If they're grumbling about it, then they're probably going to grumble about lots of things, and you don't want to be in a relationship with those kind of like people. I think that's like the trend. And it really happened here. She did that to the love interest. And also even like in the dedication in the beginning. So it says, "For all the women who choose the bear and all the men who do the work to understand why, may the forest be a little less scary one day." That in itself is already a reference to a meme that was like very big like a year ago or so. Like I feel like if you're reading it around that time or even like a year after, 2 years after, it's still okay. But like if I were to read this, I don't know, 30 years later, would I still remember the meme? I'm not sure. Would it still be relevant in a way? I also don't know. But yeah, again with Abby Jimenez, she writes her characters very compellingly in a way. I don't know how to explain it, but pretty much all her novellas have more chemistry than some romance books that I read. So I do love that about Abby Jimenez. But yeah, I don't know. Something about like the current pop culture trend and meme, I feel like it doesn't translate well in the future, so to say. That's like my thought about it. Is it better than the other one that she had, which is like the first book in this like Amazon series that she made, or she wrote? I think it's called The Worst Wingman Ever. I think that one I felt the chemistry a little bit more, but I do love how quick it wrapped up, I think. Although in some way I would love to read like a full-length novel about these two couples, like how they meet slowly and how they like develop their relationships, so on and so forth. Because I think our main character, Seth, the male main character, he's a very interesting male main character, I think. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna say to this book because it's a novella. You should just check it out yourself. But yeah. And then after that, I still had like around 2.5 hours left. So I read one chapter of Pride and Prejudice. Now I'm on chapter 5. I'm really reading this book very slowly. I might consider picking it up also on audio. So like immersive reading style. I'm gonna take this over to the next vlog because I don't even know if I'm gonna finish this in February, guys. But my goal is definitely to get like maybe halfway or a third into it by the end of February. So yeah, that's that. The other book that I'm currently in the middle of is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. I am not gonna lie, I don't know if I'm enjoying this book. I think the atmospheric vibe to it or the atmospheric ambiance of the book is very intriguing. It is definitely very like spooky, mysterious, very interesting. But somehow I am like, how far am I? I am chapter 11/104 pages in, but I feel like I'm still not fully understanding what's going on. Not that I have to fully understand what's going on. Obviously, a little bit of intrigue or like curiosity is good to finish the book, but I think I'm just not invested enough about the characters to want to know more. Obviously, in the first chapter, we got explained that Blue, our female main character, her whole family are psychics, right? And she is the only one who's not a psychic. And then I think either her mom or her sister, if I'm not wrong, someone in her family gave her like a reading in a way, a tarot reading, if I'm not wrong. And it says like something along the lines of, when you find your true love, you will kiss them and they will die. And she's trying to like rationalize it because she was like, oh, eventually everyone will die anyway. Maybe it's not like immediately whatsoever. I find that quite interesting, like the aspect of reading your future and like having a psychic family. That's all good and well, right? And then we got introduced to the 4 boys, which is the Raven Boys. They're from this like very prestigious high school and they all have this weird vibes to them. I think like our main character Gansey. So pretty much even in the first chapter you already know that the true love, like Blue's true love, is Gansey. So Gansey is like one of the Raven Boys. In the Raven Boys there is Adam, Ronan, and Noah, I think, and they all have like very distinct personality because I think Gansey is very obsessed with like all things magic and he's looking for this king that is asleep in the underground tunnels or whatsoever. And when you meet the king, you will be granted like one wish, I think. And then Ronan is a little bit like turbulent. He has like a very traumatic past, I think. And then now he's very aggressive and his mood is like fluctuating all the time. Noah is just like creepy all around. And then Adam is just, I don't know what Adam is. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think we got a lot of explanation when it comes to Adam. I think Adam was just hitting on Blue at one. Anyway, so that's pretty much like the premise of the book. The first scene was like Blue was close to this ley line and she saw like a ghost. And the ghost was Gansey. And she was not a psychic. And she asked her sister, like, how could I see Gansey? Like, I'm not a psychic. I'm not supposed to be able to see this. And then she's like, oh, well, it's because either you killed him or he was your true love. And obviously she was like, oh crap, I need to look for Gansey and make sure he's not dead, so on and so forth. So we are building towards the meetup of Blue and the Raven Boys, which I think will happen very soon, like in a few chapters. But honestly, I'm so tempted to DNF this book, but I will not, because I don't know how to DNF a book. I feel like I will feel too guilty to DNF a book. So I will continue reading this as soon as possible. I think after updating you guys, I'm just gonna binge it as much as possible. I don't know. I just feel like a lot of people are so obsessed with this series. I want to be obsessed too, but somehow either the writing style is not clicking with me or just like nothing is intriguing enough for me to want to know what's happening. So that is the Raven Boys. And we read Business Casual, which, like I said, it was a very cute, small town, rom-com kind of book. If you are looking for a good palate cleanser, definitely pick this one up. And maybe I will pick up the summer one, which is Mixed Signal, Layla and Caleb's stories. Maybe. We shall see. And the next book, or the second book that I read in this readathon, is When Gracie Met the Grump, which is my fourth reread, I think. I think somehow the first time I read it and the first 3 times I reread it, I really enjoyed it. But somehow this time when I reread it, I honestly just got a whiplash from how hot and cold our mailman character is. And I was just like, just make up your mind. You're 35 years old. If you want her, say you want her. You don't need to insult her. So that was my beef with this book. So I don't think it is a 6-star read anymore. If any, it was a 5-star read. And the other book that we finished is A Fate So Dark and Delicate. That book, don't even get me started with that book. That book was so, I don't want to say bad, but it ended really questionably because it was just, we're following too many characters. All of a sudden, like, they keep mentioning like, oh, mates are so difficult to find. And we're following 4 different POVs or 4 different sets of couples, and they're all mates. And I'm like, I thought this is supposed to be a rare thing, but I guess not in our group. And then the ending, the war ended way too fast. And there's this one beef I have with the book, but it is such a spoiler, so I'm not going to say it. But it just doesn't make sense. Like, I think our main character, Lesia, just became too OP. I know it's the 4th book, but it's way too OP that it doesn't really make sense in the plot anymore. Even like in the progression of the story or even of the character. So yeah, I have beef with that book. Oh, whether I'm going to continue reading from this author, debatable. But the first 2 books, honestly, so freaking good. I would probably consider rereading the first 2. But would I recommend the 3rd and the 4th? No. I don't think so. But yeah, those are all the books that I read. Quite a lot of books. We finished some books. Some of them were really good. Some of them were really meh. But I think the highlight of the readathon is Paladin's Grace. I think this book made me cackle so much. I just love it. But yeah. Do I have any other updates for you? Probably the crochet update. I managed to sew all the squares together. But I'm just going to show you how many ends I have to weave in. I hope you guys can see that. But it is Scary. Anyway, that's the update. I have just like loose strands everywhere. But that's the. Oh my gosh, I have another strand. But that's pretty much the 24-hour readathon. Thank you guys so much for coming along. And I know this is going to be a long one, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that. But yeah, let me know what you've been reading recently and have you read any of these books? And please let me know about the Raven Boys, whether you feel the same way whenever you read this, or do you have like a completely different feeling towards this, or am I missing something? Just let me know. But if you haven't read this, then talk to me about all the books that you've been reading. But yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will catch you in my next one. Goodbye.